Alright, so we talked about perfect squares connected to the area of a square. And there you go. If the side is 2, the area is 4, the area is 9, and so on. Now let's talk about cubes. Do you know what a cube is?
3.
3 what? I don't get it. 3. Like 3 and a cube means the same? No, what actually is a cube? Like physically, like in my world, what is a cube? It's kind of a box, right? It's a special box. What makes a box a cube? So you would say that all the sides are the same length, all the faces are squares, right? Is that what makes a cube? Do you know how many faces make up a cube? Because we roll dice, right? We get it, right? 1 through 6. And that means all faces are square, and all sides or edges are the same length. So if a perfect square has to do with area, you ready? Guess what a perfect cube has to do with? Volume. Volume. What is it? How do you find the volume of a cube? What's a better way to find the volume of a cube? That's it. And that's why we call it cubed. So if a cube has an edge length, because we call them edges when it's solids, if it has an edge length of 1, what's the volume? Because 1 times 1 times 1 is? Well, we're catching. If the cube has an edge length of 2, because why? Because 2 times is the volume of a cube. So why do we call them cubes? Is because it connects us to the volume of a cube. Why are they squares? Because it connects us to the area of squares when they're whole numbers, right? So, let's see how far you go. Do you know your cubes? I have a cube, and the edge is 3. Keep going. I love it. How far can you go? No more. Gotta do something, right? Gotta warm up the brain. Rev. The oil's warming up in the engine. Did anyone have the courage to go 4 times 4 times 4? That's courage. How about more courage? 5 times 5 times 5. What? Uh-oh, now we're starting to getting there, right? Some don't like this, but 6 times 6 times 6. It is Halloween. 200 and... See, I know, right? Like, oh my goodness. Great balls of fire. So, 7. Let's go to the other number. 7, 7, 7, right? Wipes out 6, 6, 6. 7, 7, 7. What is it? What? That's too good. How about 8 times 8 times 8? In your head? Okay. How about 9 times 9 times 9? Okay, we're going to get to the easy number. I hope this is easy. 10 times 10 times 10. 100. Close. What is it? Okay, now let's go to the next one. So the next one are called perfect, and the next one will be perfect fifths, and so on. Now, this does not connect us to geometry. We don't have 4 dimensions in geometry. They often call you know what they often call the 4th dimension? So, like, we understand 2 dimensions, right? 3 dimensions is a solid that has length, width, and depth, right? 3 dimensions. What do you think the 4th dimension? Because sometimes you see a movie and they say the movie is in 4D. Have you ever seen that? Yes. So what do they mean by 4D? Don't go to it because it'll really, like, creep you out, right? 4D is when they work with your senses, right? Your 4th dimension is like what you feel, what you smell, right? All that stuff. So when you go to a 4D movie, it like looks like it's going up your pant or whatever, like it's being sprayed on your face. Something's like crawling on your arm. Have you ever done that kind of movie? You never gone to a movie like that? It's 4D? Don't, unless you like that. If you like that kind of stuff. I made the mistake of going to see, you know the movie Rio, the Blue Bird? It was in 4D at the San Diego Zoo, and my daughter's like 3 or 4, and she really liked Rio, like on the TV, but not 4D, and then the lights go down, and then that creepy white big bird, and then rattles the kid, and it's all coming at you, right? And like the water, up the on the arm, on the shoulder, like it all, yeesh. Okay. We did not last to the end of that movie. We got out of that theater. So, hey, perfect fourths. So 4D is when you have your fourth dimension as your senses. So, do you know 1 times 1 times 1 times 1 is? All right, let's challenge yourselves. You ready? You might want to use your fingers. 2 times 2 times 2 times 2. All right, you might want to challenge yourself. 1 times 1, 3 times 3, times 3, times 3. Crazy, right? Try it again. 4, you know more. 4 times 4, times 4, times 4. All right. 5 times 5, times 5. Times 5. I heard it. Thank you, Rosie. You ready? 7 times 7 times 7. Did I skip 6? I just felt like it was like scaring me. 6 times 6 times 6. Didn't we already do that? What's 6 times 6 times 6? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Right here, right? Right? The perfect cube. So I take that number times 6. And you know what you get? 1,000 something? Good. Hey, this one is 7 times 7 times 7, right? So what's that times 7? What? You're so good. How about like 8? 8 times 8 times 8. 4,096. How about 9 times 9 times 9? What would happen if I multiplied it times 9? Well, 81, right? Carry the 1. Or carry the 8. 9 times 2 is 18, and 8 more is 26. Carry the 2. 9 times 7 is 63. And what did we carry? 2, right? So 6,561. You're doing it in your phone. I see it. Now, this one should be easy. 10, 10, 10, 10. I know. All right. We are going to use these numbers to simplify radicals. Because the question we're going to ask when we simplify radicals is, what is the perfect square? What is the perfect cube? What is the perfect fourth that goes into it evenly so I can simplify something? All right, let's do some vocab. Do you know there's parts to a radical? So, do you see this little n right there? A radical could have any number inside that little v. When you don't see a number there, it means square root. But if you see a 3 or a 4, that's called the index. Do you see this V looking thing? Almost looks like a divide sign with a V. That's called the radical sign. I know I was going to avoid those kind of jokes about being radical or Crush from Nemo or, any of that stuff. Dude, you don't know Crush from Nemo? Dude. That's radical, dude, right? That's the way Crush talks, right? Dude, right? You don't remember Crush? Come on. That's like the best Disney movie ever. All right. A is called the Radicand. Because you can. The Radicand. If there's no index, it is assumed that n equals... So if you don't see a number, we don't ever put a 2 there. So if it's invisible, what you don't see is 2. So those are the parts. Now we're going to actually see if we know what we're doing. Hey, what's the square root of 16? We're going to do this quick. 4. What's the square root of 121? Good. Square root of 289?
17.
Square root of... Now, when you have a fraction, you simply take the top and bottom separately. Like, what is the square root of 4? And the square root of 25. It's really simple. Cube root. 2. Cube root. Cube root. Be careful. So, one of the big points of today is an even root, no negatives, right? But an odd root, you can have a negative number. So you're right, this is negative. Again, we're going to separate it. And you get, hey, where does the negative go? The top, the bottom, whatever? The answer is that negative can go to the top, that negative can go to the bottom, that negative can go in front, but the negative does not go to both. It's not negative over a negative. Got it? So exactly. So it can be on top, it can be on the bottom, it can be in front. Cannot be both. Yay? Okay, 4th root of 1. 1. 4th root of 2,401.
7. I was thinking something else.
4th root of 4,096. Okay, the 4th root of 81 and the 4th root of 16. You guys are good. Hey, if the index is even, that means if the root is an even root, and you have a positive number underneath, then the types of roots are real, and if you, this is real, R-E-A-L, if we understand roots, it's an understanding of solving an equation. If you had an equation with an even root, how many answers would you get? And the reason you get 2 answers is because if it's positive or negative, if you square it or fourth it, you get the same answer at the end. So, odd and positive. How many roots are there? They're real, right? But for here, if you're solving an equation, there's only one answer. So when we solve a quadratic, the answer could be positive or negative when we take the square root. Yes? But for a cube root, there would only be one answer. So it can't be positive or negative for a cube or fifth, and when you do that. So if the index is odd with negative, again, it's real. But here, again, you only have one answer that's negative. But here at the last part, this is the big one. If you have an even index and negative, this one is going to be imaginary. And if you solved it, there would be 2 imaginary answers, but they're not real. All right. But we'll do this more when we have our lesson on solving equations. Our lesson today is on simplifying. So, what happens when a number is not a perfect square, a perfect cube, a perfect fourth? Is there a way to write it simpler? And the answer is yes, and I'm going to say it over and over again. For a square root, what's the perfect square that goes into 117 evenly? So you look here, right, and think which of these numbers goes into 117. This is not easy. You're going to have to think, and you're looking for the biggest number that goes into 117. That's right, you got to think. Any ideas? Huh? 10 is not on my list. The number I'm looking for is 1, 4. 1's not going to help me. It's 4, 9, 16, 25, 36. One of those. Go. Yes. Can I give you a quick way to know if a number goes into it evenly? Do you know that every number has a rule to it? Like, for instance, if 2 goes in it evenly, it means the number is even. Yay? If 3 goes in it evenly, if you add the digits, 3 goes into that evenly. Yay, right? 9 means what? Yeah, does it add up, and what you add up to, right, does 9 go into it evenly? So, like 1 plus 1 plus 7 is, so does 9 go into 9 evenly? That means 9 goes into the, have you ever done that in middle school? No? All right. 4 4, you look at only the last 2 digits. So if the last 2 number digits, 4 goes in evenly, then the whole number. So if I had 1,016,000, I just look at 16 and I know it goes in evenly. Anyway, each one has a rule, not the lesson. I'll just as I see it, I'll tell you. Okay? So 9 goes in evenly. So 9 times what, though? Tricky, right? Without a calculator? You're going to have to, scratch the brain, right? For times tables. And then what is the score to 9? And what's left behind? Perfect. All right, next one. So we already have a number in front, but 320. I'm looking for the biggest perfect square that goes into it evenly. Any courageous ones out there? The largest perfect square. Huh?
16 times 20.
I like it. You know why I know there's a larger one? Because think of 20. It's 20 prime. That's how you know. So when you think of the two numbers, the other number you have has to be prime.
33 times 10.
Which one?
33 times 10.
No, we got to pick a number that's a perfect square. We start here. It has to be a perfect square. You can't just pick any two numbers that multiply. So you got to think which one of these would go into it evenly. Which one? Which one? Oh, you're saying 64? How many times does 64 go into it evenly?
4.
No.
5.
5. So, what is the square root of 64?
8.
And then if you multiply it times the number in front, what number do you get? And then what's left behind? Takes practice, right? Today is really going to test you on your times tables. Your calculator, if you just typed it in and press enter, not diamond enter, but just enter, would just do it for you. So if you typed it in, now you don't know how to type in a cube root, I do, but if you want to know, I'd tell you later on in life. But you could type it in and just press enter and it would simplify it for you. Hey, what cube root goes into 48 evenly? I'll help you. What cube root goes into 48 evenly? And it's 8 times what? What is the cube root of 8? What's the cube root of 8? And then take that answer times what's already in front. So that number now is 4. And what's left under the cube root sign? Keep going. It's going to be a good challenge. Hey, what cube root goes into 108 evenly? So when I say that, you have to look at the cube roots and then decide which one is going to be the one. And it's 27. 27 times what? Is 108. Some of you, do you know what you're unfortunately going to have to do if you don't have a calculator? Some of you are going to go one number at a time and divide. You're going to take 108 and you're going to divide until the one works, right? Do long division. Or you know it. What is the cube root of 27? 3. And then what do I do with the 3? Multiply it. What's in front? So 3 times 3 is 9. And what's left behind? The cube root of 4. Hey, can I tell you another way you could do this? Without a calculator, you willing to listen?
Yeah.
Oh, good. I'm happy you're willing to listen. Shh. Shush. You ready? I want to know what is the perfect cube that goes into 250 evenly, right? I'm not sure what it is, let's say. Have you ever done a factor tree? So, what a factor tree does is, in this example, you can start with, and notice I'm not worried about the negative. I can do that at the end. Shh. Why are you talking over me and talking over my video? So a factor tree doesn't care what two numbers you start with. You just got to pick the 2, 1 that come to your head. And the two that come to my head are 25 and 10. Does that come to mind to you? Now, 25 and 10, are they prime numbers? It's called prime factorization. What does prime mean? Only one and itself going evenly, right? Those are the only factors. What goes into 25 evenly? So 25 is really 5 times 5. Is that right? Do you know, is 10 prime? What's 10? Okay, so if I break it down, this is again called a factor tree or a prime factor tree, where we break it down into prime numbers. What do you obviously notice for a perfect cube? So the idea of a radical, right, is what number 3 times itself? Do you see a number 3 times itself? What is it? And we're going to make it negative 5, and then what's left underneath the cube root? Did you like that? Like if the number is large, could you break it down like that to be able to understand it better without a calculator? Okay, 6 is obviously a small number. What can I do with this one? The only thing that can come out is actually the negative. Cube root of 2 is prime. There's no way to break that number down. So the negative inside can come outside, right? Because negative 1 times negative 1 times negative 1, that's it. The 2 stays behind. Okay, 162. Fourth root. So guess what you're going to have to do? Do you know your times tables? Do you know the fourth root that goes into it evenly? Like I can see it. But can you see it? Okay, so can we do a tree again together? Okay, so 162 says, start simple. What's the obvious number that you know goes into it evenly?
81.
2 and? 81. Now, if you're good, you could stop there. Because 81 is a perfect fourth, right? But let's say you don't know it, because you don't know your perfect fourths. You could understand that 81 is 9 times 9, is that right? Is 9 and 9, does that break down? So if 81 is 9 times 9, yes? Then this is really, 9 is 3 times 3, and 9 is 3 times 3. That's called the prime factorization, right? Only prime numbers. If you see a number 4 times itself, what number is that? And there's already a 3 in front, so 3 times 3 is 9, and then what's left over is 2. So you've done that before?
Yeah.
Yes.
Cool. Number 8, go for it. Let's say the only thing you can think of is 2, right? What's half of that? Do you know what half of this is? Hey, if you're having a hard time, what's half of 2,600? 1,300, right? And it's a little bit less than that, right? So, did I hear it? Is it 1296? Or it's huh? 1296, right? Now, let's say again, 1296. What's half of 1296? Half of 1296. Any ideas? So half of 1200 is what? Half of 1200 is half of 96? So, put it together. We're almost there. We're getting easier numbers. What's half of 648? What's half of 6?
3. No.
What's half of 4? What's half of 8, right? Is it getting easier? Hey, let's try it again. It's still a big number, isn't it? So, 324, what's half of that? 1. Good. 1. What's half of 300? What's half of 24? 162? Do you see how I broke down the number to make it easier to go half? Hey, let's try it again. What's half of 162? 80. Hey, is that now we're getting easier? What's half of 81? Can't do it. What are the other numbers that go into 81? Well, 9 times 9 is 3 times 3 and 3 times 3. All right, what did we learn? I needed a 2 here. Hey, I'm looking for a number 4 times itself. Do you see it?
Yep.
Which number do you see? 2 and 3. That really means the number 4 times itself is not 2 and 3, but what is 2 times 3? So this is really this. Right? 2 times 3? 4 times? What is 2 times 3? And it's 4 of them, right? Do you see it? So what would be the 4th root of that? What number 4 times itself? Oh, that's 6? And what number's in front already? 5. And then what's left behind is just 2. So it's really 30 and the 4th root of 2. What's that? Yep, if you knew it. I was just trying to show you. Let's say, Chris, let's give me an example. You ready? You don't get these notes tomorrow. So let's pretend that you don't have that memorized by tomorrow morning. Now what do? You get what I mean? So if you have it memorized, then yes. Are you there? Is that memorized yet? Then we have to break it down until we know it. All right, we're almost there. Hey, square roots, exponents must be in multiples of, and the reason is, when I do a square root, do you know what you do with the exponent? You divide it by 2. Cube roots, exponents must be multiples of, which means that to the exponent, what are you going to do? 4th roots must be multiples of, which means you take the exponent and divide it by 4. So now what we're going to do is we're going to simplify radicals with algebra. So if we have exponents and radicals, we are dividing. Exponents and radicals, we are dividing. Exponents and radicals, we are yay. So let's start. The square root of 32. Can we break this number down? So 32, me, then it's you. What's the largest perfect square that goes into 32 evenly? Good, and it's 16 times what? Excellent. Now we're going to break down the variables. If a variable has an even exponent, then we let it be. So x to the 4th is good, right? Because I can divide it by 2. But y to the 9th is what type of exponent, obviously? Odd. Can I do that? No. So instead, what I'm looking for is what's the largest number that goes right to 9 that's even numbered that I can break it down. So the largest even number that's close to 9 is 8. What's the largest even number that's less than 9? And the answer is 8. And then if it's 8, what must this be so that it's still 9? What's left over? So, and this should be not an X, but Y. All right, so let's break it down again. See this 9? I wrote it as 8 plus 1. Why did I go 8 plus 1? So that I can then simplify it. So what's the square root of 16? What is the square root of x to the 4th? What do you do with the exponents? Divide it by, so now it's x. What's the square root of y to the 8th? Divided by 2. What do you get? Then, whatever I didn't cross out has to stay behind. 2 and y. Done. Okay, we're going to do it again. You need to be a good listener. Number 10. 324. Do you know 324? Hey, let's say I don't know 324. It's not even on my page, is it? So what's the obvious number that goes into 324 evenly? You think 12 goes in evenly? It might. Is that obvious? So what is it? Half of 300 is 150. Half of 24 is, so that's 162. How about 162? What's half of that? 81. Do you know that 81 is 9 times 9? I don't need to break it down further. We're doing square root, right? What number times itself? What number times itself? It's what? 2 and 9. Do you know that 2 and 9 make 18? So what's the square root of 324? And the answer is 18 without a calculator, right? Without having your notes to look back to. So what number times itself is it? 18. So in other words, 324, I don't need to break down. 324 is going to stay the same. How about a cubed? What's the even number that's close to 3? And then what's left behind for a? So 2, and then 2 plus 1 is 3. What's the even number close to 7? And then what's left behind? Because 6 plus 1 is 7. And then we actually do the work. The square root of 324 is 18. The square root of a squared is just a. The square root of b to the 6th is b cubed, because you divide it by 2. And then what's left behind that you can't do is 1a and 1b, and it's over. The algebra makes it a little more challenging. Number 11. This one I think you have to know. What's the cube root of 216? What number 3 times itself is 216? And if you don't know it, 216. What's half of 216?
108.
108. What's half of 108? 54. What's half of 54?
37. No, 27.
Okay? And then 27 is 3 times 3 times 3. What number 3 times itself? 2 and 3, which makes what number? So, let's not get bad feelings in our tummy, but yes, it's that number. So, it's a good number, meaning I don't need to break it down. It's already a perfect cube. Now what? Does 3 go into 3 evenly? Does 3 go into 6 evenly? We're done. The cube root of 216 is 3 divided by 3 is m to the 1. 6 divided by 3 is done. Oh, that's an m. That's an n. Ask me. Yes.
Wait, for number 2, why did you keep it A?
Number 2. We're at number 11?
I know, but I'm just seeing, because I got just the B inside.
For which one?
I mean, number 10.
Number 10. So, do you see that a cubed is a squared times a?
Oh, yes. Good.
So that's where the a came from. Okay, number 12. Thank you for asking. Number 12. 56. Hey, what's the perfect cube that goes into 56 evenly? Do you know your perfect cubes? Hey, I heard it. It's 8 times 7. If you don't know it, you have to break it down with the tree. Does 3 go into 8 evenly?
Yes.
I'll try again. Does 3 go into 8 evenly? No. So, what multiple of 3 is close to 8? 6. And then what's left over to make 8? See, I broke it down to 6 and 2. You guys are squirrely. The next one, 4. Does 3 go into 4 evenly? So what's the multiple of 3 that's close to 4? And then what's left to add up to 4? Notice these exponents have to add up to what they were before. So the cube root of 8 is 2. The cube root of this means you divide. What's 6 divided by 3? R squared, that's left behind. S cubed, 3 divided by 3 leaves me with 1s. And then you write down what I didn't cross out, which is 7, R squared, and 1s. All right, number 13. All right, I want you to try. You guys are mumbling over there, right? We got to try this. I know it's not simple. It's going to take some thinking, right, to get through it. And if you're done, are you done? Okay. Then just relax. Perfect. Have you ever done something like this before?
Yes.
Yeah, last year.
Awesome. So you guys are pros.
Pretty sure we did this exact packet last year.
What?
Yes. I think it's in one of our books.
Well, do you remember what you did a year ago? Maybe. Fair enough. Hey, is 64 a perfect cube? Good. So, x to the 10th. What's the multiple of 3 that's close to 10? 9. And then what's left behind? 1x. Is 21 a multiple of 3? So, let it go. What's the cube root of negative 64? And it's negative 4. The cube root of x to the 9th, you divide by 3. X is left behind. 21 divided by 3. And then what's left behind is the cube root of x. And if you did this last year, that's awesome. Sometimes I have a hard time remembering last week. So, 14. Maybe there's others like me. Cube root of negative 81. 81 can be broken down to negative 27 times 3. So the cube root of negative 27, what number 3 times itself? Is negative 3. P squared, it's too small. So 2, there's nothing I can do with it. It stays behind. 12, what's 12 divided by 3? And what I'm left with is 3, P squared, and that's it. All right, a few more left. Try number 15. Just working with the algebra. Are you able to manipulate the exponents to simplify it? W to the 4, shush, W to the 4 is good because 4 divided by 4, I get that, right? It goes into 4 evenly. But 17, what multiple of 4 is close to? So I break it down to 16 and 1. So and that's a V. So what's the 4th root of W to the 4? 4 divided by 4 gives me 1W. 16 divided by 4 gives me V to the 4. And what's left over is the 4th root of V. All right, 3 left. Then for those that need practice, for those that need to go back to the video, you have a resource because you can forget, right? We're all human. 16. What perfect fourth goes into 48 evenly? And it's 16 times... One more. 3. So 16 times 3. 8 is good, correct? And 3 is too small. Like if the small number is smaller than 4, then it's got to go to stay what it is. So the 4th root of 16 is 2. The 4th root of m to the 8 means we go 8 divided by, they're both here. 8 divided by 4, which is 2. And then what's left over is the 4th root of 3n cubed. 17. $625. Is there a number 4 times itself that equals 625?
Yes.
Good. Do you know what that number is? Good. So we don't let it go, right? 23. What multiple of 4 is close to 23? And then what's left over that adds up then to 20, right? So 3 is left because it adds up to 23. How about 11? What multiple of 4 is close to 11? And then what's left? Because they always got to add up, right? Now, the 4th root of 625 is 5. What's 20 divided by 4? That, I skip. 8 divided by 4. And then what's left is c cubed and d cubed. All right, one more, and the video's done. We're good. We're going to be awesome tomorrow because you did it last year. Hooray, what a good job, right? A nice A, right, tomorrow? Hey, here we go. Did you do this last year without notes where you couldn't see perfect squares and cubes and stuff? You did it by memory? Nice. Here we go. Hey, what do I do with this? I don't get it. Oh, so this whole thing is to the what exponent? So I simply need to go 8 divided by 4. So it's y, and then what does that equal?
Y squared.
Oh, I like that.
Plus 9.
Oh,
Plus 9.
I'm not going to put down plus 9 yet. 6y, then what? There we go. I love it. All right, Mr. G Math. Over and out. You are smart.